Welcome to the FMC Lounge, everyone. I'm your host Joe for Show, and in this video we're going to be going over my updated Ajax guide. Now I'll be covering the mutant cells, general component cores, and the arcade tuning, the builds I use in the weapons. If y'all could do me a favor, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. It would really help with the YouTube algorithm. I'd appreciate it a lot. Now enough of the yapping, let's jump straight into the video. Now for our first build, it's going to be a mobbing build. It's going to revolve around void charge. If you don't know what this does, it's going to modify our void walk, be stackable, and it's going to give us increased expulsion damage for our third ability and our second ability, depending on how much defense we have. And we will have enhanced skill. Our skill cooldown is going to reset, which will allow us to spam our second and our third ability. For the mods, go ahead and get your screenshots. I'm running one non-attribute amplification, tech specialist, and power increase. This will give us a third category of damage. If you notice skill power, if you notice tech skill power modifier, and you notice non-attribute skill power, that's three different categories of damage. This is going to allow us to do the most damage possible. We're rocking two cooldown mods, two range mods, one skill cost mod to help us spam our abilities. We lose less mana, MP collector so we get our mana back, and then one HP mod. And for our reactor, we're using non-attribute and tech reactor with skill cooldown and non-attribute skill power boost ratio in our substats. Now you need to keep this in mind for your reactor. You could use non-attribute tech or you could use non-attribute and dimension. It doesn't matter. Both will help your build do a lot of damage. If you come over here, you notice our third ability is non-attribute dimension, and our second ability is non-attribute and tech. I have a tech reactor, as you see, so this is going to do more damage, but this isn't. You need to decide which one do you want to do more damage, and depending which one you do more damage, you're going to change this mod to that as well. I went with the tech route because I like to use my second ability more as movement speed so I can gain more ground. I want my second ability to do more damage than my third ability. Now does that mean my third ability is going to do very less damage? No, it will still hit very hard. Now if you notice, for our second ability and our third ability, it says proportional to defense. You will do a little bit more damage based on how your defense is. It's irrelevant, it's not a factor. Best way to explain it is just imagine that defense, instead of it saying 17.3, imagine it said 20%, right? And if our defense was 100,000, that means we're only going to do 20,000 extra damage. That 20,000 is irrelevant, so don't worry about that defense doing more damage. For our external component cores, we went to 4-piece enlightened mage set, just because that 2 set we get 6% skill power, and then our 4 set we're going to get 84% extra non-attribute when you hit 3 stacks after we use our abilities. Every time you use your ability, you're gonna get 1 stack, and once you hit max 3, you get that 84% non-attribute skill power. For our external component cores, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense. Now if you're wondering, can you run the 4-piece slayer set? Yes, but it's not necessary. The reason why? We use a 4-piece slayer set for that 26% extra skill power, but because we are running power increase, we're already getting skill power, and we're getting 65% instead of 26. So there's no reason to use a 4-piece slayer set. That's better for skill critical hit build. For our weapon of choice, we're using Secret Garden. 2 reasons only. First reason, the sprint speed cores, so we could try to keep up with the bunnies. And then for unique ability, which whenever you use a tech skill, you're gonna get pest control. And pest control is going to give you increased skill power and firearm, and it can stack up to 3 times. Now here are the cores and the substats. Just keep in mind for the substats, the weak point damage and all that, I had those stats on before Secret Garden recently got a buff, so don't use this as a reference for Secret Garden doing the most damage. And here are the mods. Again, I put these mods on before Secret Garden got a buff. Don't use this as a reference for Secret Garden doing the most damage. I run brisk walk because having this equipped and you get kills with your your skills, this still procs, so this is going to help give us more movement speed as well. Our other weapon, we're using last dagger. I mainly use it to kill the bosses at the end of 400% dungeon, sigma, stuff like that. Here are the cores and here are the substats, and then here are the mods. You would change this to whatever the enemy's weak to. And for our last weapon of choice, we're using smithereen. And here are the cores, here are the substats. You don't run fire attack, you would switch that to crit hit damage. I have fire attack because I use the same shotgun for Serena for Ice Maiden. Here are the mods. You would change this element to whatever the enemy is weak to. For our inversion reinforcement, we're running adrenaline rush for more movement speed, selected neurostimulation so we get our MP back, and I'm rocking neurofocus augmentation to increase our max MP. Now you can take this off and run one of these if you want your weapon to do more damage depending on what the enemy is weak to. For our arcade tuning, this is the tree route I went with, and I wanted the enhanced skill power, the enhanced skill cooldown, and the non-attribute cohesion for our mutant cell. And then our last couple points, I just spent it for a little bit HP and a little bit of MP recovery modifier. Now here's a quick little gameplay of me showing you how this build works. Our next build, we're using Void Explosion. What this does, it changes our third ability to be a stackable skill and reduce charge sub attack cooldown, which we won't be using. We tried testing out the charge sub attack mods, it just doesn't do enough, and it's going to give us increased damage using our third ability. Now our third ability is going to be our main damage. We're just spamming that all the time. You can use your second ability for some damage, but you mainly using your third over and over and over. So here are the mods. Go ahead and get your screenshots. Nothing really changes for the last build. It's exactly as the same before. We're just still rocking tech, because when you do use this Transcendent mod, it becomes a tech archetype. It's not dimension no more. So with it being tech and our reactor being tech, both of our abilities are going to be on the same archetype, so they're both going to get the benefit from the reactor. For our reactor, we're using the same one, non-attribute and tech, and for our substat, skill cooldown, non-attribute skill power boost ratio. And then for our external components, we're still rocking the light and mage just for that 2-set bonus and that 4-set bonus that we talked about in the previous build. For our external component cores, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense. Our weapon of choice, we're still using the Secret Garden like our previous build for the unique ability, and the sprint speed cores. Here are the substats. Remember, the substats were put on before Secret Garden got a buff, so don't use that as a reference for this will do the most damage for the Secret Garden weapon. Here are the mods. Again, I put these mods on before Secret Garden got a buff, so don't use this as a reference for this will make your Secret Garden do the most damage. And we're using Brisk Walk because when you have this equipped, kill enemies with your skills, just still proc, so this is going to give us movement speed as well. Our other weapon of choice is Last Dagger like before. Here are the cores and the substats. And here are the mods. Again, you would change this element to whatever the enemy is weak to. And then our last weapon is Smithereen. They're the cores. They're the substats. You would change the fire attack to crit hit damage. I just have it because I use this weapon with Serena for Ice Maiden. And then here are the mods. Again, you would change this to whatever the enemy's weak to. For our inversion reinforcement, the same as before. Adrenaline rush for movement speed. Selected neurostimulation to get MP back, and neural focus augmentation to increase our max MP. You can change this though for any of these if you want your weapons to do more damage. For our arcade tuning, the same skill tree as before. Nothing really changes. We're still rocking enhanced skill power, enhanced skill cooldown, and non-attribute cohesion for our mutant cell. And our last point, you know, the enhanced HP just for a little bit more, and then the enhanced MP recovery modifier. Now for our next build, it's going to be our bossing build, and this is going to be a bossing support build. Now Ajax can't do boss damage with his skills. You might have seen a video of him being able to do it against Ice Maiden. That only happens because Ice Maiden mechanics. When you break her weak points, you do more skill damage, and it also depends on a certain attack that a boss does. And at the moment in the game, only Ice Maiden and Devourer have that attack. So we're not going to be covering no boss attacking damage with Ajax. We're going to go over a boss support. Now we're using Matrix Weak Computation, and what this is going to do, it's going to change our third ability to where it's going to buff our teammate. Now here are the mods. Go ahead and get your screenshots. When you use this next to your teammate, they're going to get increased defense, and when you have the enhanced version, they're going to get increased shield as well. So this is going to help our teammates be a little bit more tankier, and hopefully this build will be relevant in the future if we get harder boss content. For our mod, we're rocking 2 range mods, 2 cooldown mods, spear and shield just for more defense, overwhelming HP, increased HP, and HP amplification. This is going to allow us to have a lot more HP. Now you can throw on increased shield to get even more HP, but it's not necessary. So these 2 mod slots, you can throw on whatever you want. What I was doing, which I haven't finished, I was going to throw on a resistance mod here, different elements, you know, based on the boss that we're going against. And then right here, I was going to throw on immunity as well, you know, like toxic immunity, frozen immunity, burn immunity, stuff like that. So that's what I had these 2 empty slots for. You can put whatever you can find that fits your build. For your reactor, the only 2 stats that matters is skill cooldown, which allows spam our first, our third, and a fourth ability more, and a skill effect range, which will make our wall bigger for our first ability, our bubble bigger for our fourth ability, and increase the range of our third ability so we could buff our teammates if they're not next to us. The weapon mounting and the skill power boost ratio is irrelevant because we're not using our ability to do damage. So throw on whatever reactor that you have that at least has skill cooldown and skill effect range. For our external component core, we're going to be rocking the Firebrand set just for that extra 2-set bonus of the skill effect range and skill effect duration. And then we're rocking a 2-piece hunter set just for that extra skill cooldown, which will help our abilities, you know, 7.2 cooldown, 3.2 cooldown, and a 2.1 cooldown. And then with the range, it's going to help us get max range, 12 meters, 12 meters. The enhanced version is going to get 18 meters, and then our wall is going to be at 5.1 by 8.7. Our weapon of choice, it's going to depend on whatever the meta is, if this build ever becomes relevant, because at the moment it's not. But at the moment the meta is last dagger. So here's the weapon we're using, here are the cores and the substats, and then here are the mods. You would change this to whatever the boss is weak to. And there are other weapons, smithereen, here are the cores, here are the substats. You would change the fire attack to crit hit damage. I just have fire attack because I use the shotgun with Serena for Ice Maiden. Here are the mods. You would change this to whatever that boss is weak to. For our inversion reinforcement, we're using void resistance just in case our HP does get under 50%. We'll take less damage. We're using ammo system so we can help our reload time modifier. And if for your last one, you use any of these depending on what the boss is weak to. For our arcade tuning, we went with this route for our skill tree. I wanted as much, firearm attack as I could get, so our weapons could do more damage. If you are using a multi-hit damage, you're going to take off some of these, firearm. Instead of going up this route, you would go down this route and get your, your multi-crit hit chance and damage. We are not using any mutant cell because of this build. We want to do much damage as I can with our weapons, and the best way to do that is with an M slot. When we hit the boss with our skill, their defense will go down. The problem is our M slot is all the way over here. I don't want to sacrifice some weapon damage just to make the run over here, so we're not using any mutant slot. This is just how it looks. If you need a reactor for Ajax, check the pinned comment down below. I have a YouTube link showing a very easy farm for you to go get one. Well, that's gonna be it for the video. Hopefully this guide makes it easier for you to decide on what kind of builds you want to make for Ajax. Well, on that note, I will catch you on next video.